All right, guys. So we are going to open up the floor. So we just went through setting up our ministry trust, which was absolutely amazing, right? And then after that, we applied for our EIN for our tax exempt organization, and then we became ordained ministers. So we did a lot today on Wednesday, and I am opening up the floors for any questions. I'm going to look in the chat as well. I know that there is questions because we went through a lot. So let's see here. So Allison put, what are some good websites for virtual address? So the one that I use is the one that I recommend is iPostal1. So let's see here. Aya, she had put it in the chat. So the link is there for iPostal1. They have actually a variety of choices as far as virtual addresses that you can use nationwide. And the way that it works is you just sign up with an account. It's as little as like $10 a month. And then you get to choose whichever address that you want, either in your city or state. And then now, after you've authenticated your identity, you can start receiving mail at that specific address. So you're going to put 1000 Biscayne Street as your address, and then it's going to be forwarded to your home, or it'll be scanned in, or you can go to the physical location and pick it up. So there's a variety of different ways, but that's going to help you conceal your address, is going to help you conceal your identity, because the trust address is not associated with your personal address. So that's why you really do not want to use the same address that is your personal residence, right? So that was a good question, Allison. Can all three trusts have the same members? Yes, it can. You can have the same members on your board for all three trusts, because they're separate entities. And so no one can say, oh, because you're serving on this board, you can't serve on a board for, for another entity. Any other questions? So you guys can come off of mute. You can raise your hand, you can come off of mute, you can put it in the chat. Anything that we went over today as far as setting up our ministry trust, as far as applying for our EIN application, as far as becoming ordained ministers. So I know we went through a lot today. Let me know if you guys have any questions. All right, let's see. Circling back to the business trust from Monday. Did you mention that service-based companies such as medical doctor's office could not be converted to a trust or owned by a trust? They can be owned by a trust. So what I was saying was, if you have a, for example, the medical doctor's office, right? There's a lot of state regulations, right? You have like ACA, OSHA, all these different governmental agencies that are regulating that doctor's office, okay? And so with that being said, whatever entity you're using, you want to keep it intact. So if you're using an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp, you want to keep it intact. And then all you want to do is just have the business trust own that entity. So that is the best practice for that type of business. You said service-based businesses such as, the medical doctor's office. Yeah, so it just depends on what type of business you have, especially like, if you need that, that regulation through the government, okay? But yeah, it can be owned by the business trust. I have an EIN already prior. Can you look at it? So, when you say you have an EIN, so how did you apply for this EIN and what entity is this EIN for? So if you have an EIN, that EIN is either specifically for like a sole proprietor or is for another entity, an LLC or a corporation or anything like that, right? And so every single entity needs its own EIN. So we are setting up three trusts. So all three trusts are going to need its own EIN. Okay. So just because you have an EIN already, that's probably for a totally different entity or a sole proprietor, and you can't use it for your ministry trust or your business trust or your private family trust. Should these trusts be formed after authentication process using a different name, and which of the trusts get bank accounts? So, you can do the process simultaneously, but if you want to wait until you do the authentication process, you can do that. So if you're going through Dion for that process, just confirm with her. And as far as which ones get bank accounts, so you actually want all of your trusts to have a bank account, because you're going to have a lot of, financial responsibilities dealing with the bank accounts or dealing with the trust, right? So you want all of them to have bank accounts. 98. Okay, perfect. So you have a 98 number. So with that 98 number, you can use it. I think we had spoke about this, but you can use it to either apply for another 98 number for the entities that you're establishing now. So if you wanted to apply for a 98 number for your business trust or your ministry trust or your family trust, you can. So what other way did you want to use your 98 number? Because it sounds like, I think you applied for it, but you haven't used it. So you can just use it.
No, I haven't. I haven't
Okay.
used it.
Okay. So so the reason why you applied for it is one is to replace using your social. So that's why you want to use it. You want to use it in replacement of not having to use your 9-digit social security number.
So can I use it on this?
Yeah, you can. So remember what we just did? We went through that
Mm-hmm.
whole process of applying for the EIN.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you put the responsible party, you're going to put your 98 number there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. When you say you fund the trust with $1, where does that money go? So, okay, so when you're funding the trust, right, you're documenting that you're receiving the dollar from the grantor, okay? And so now you as the trustee have received the dollar and you are surrendering it to the trust. So where does the trust hold its funds? So if you have a bank account, that $1 is going to go into the trust bank account. If you have a safety deposit box, that $1 is going to go into the safety deposit box. So wherever wherever the trust holds its funds, its valuables, is where the $1 goes. So typically we have a bank account, and that $1 is going to go inside the bank account. If you form a trust with 0 assets, is it just a matter of logging minutes and adding assets? Yes, it is. So you're just going to, whenever you add an asset, so for example, if I form the trust today and I have no assets and next year I buy a house, you're going to have a board meeting saying that the trust is purchasing a house or that the trust is being gifted a house. And then you're going to obviously add that board meeting to your records. And then you just have to do the physical ownership part, right? So one, you need to have a board meeting about it. Two, you need to add it to your schedule. So your schedule B is where you list the assets. So you're always going to be wanting to update it if you're always either selling or buying or selling assets. You always want to update your schedule B. Okay. So you're going to list it on your schedule B, and then you're actually going to do the physical ownership part or transfer of assets part. So if it's a property, if you're buying it straight from the trust, right? Or if you're buying it, if the trust is buying it and getting an actual mortgage, then there's no transfer of ownership because the trust is buying it outright. But if, let's just say that the property was gifted by somebody or it was a part of an inheritance, then what you want to do is you want to deed it over. Okay, so you're going to gift it to the trust, deed it over, and then you're going to add that deed to your records as well, but just make sure that it's recorded with the county, showing that that asset is owned by the trust. If the business trust is your holding company, should more than one medical company be owned by the trust? Or should there be multiple business trusts per service-based company? So that's a good question. You always have to think litigation, right? So the best practice is to have one asset per trust. That is the best absolute practice. With the holding company, you can have multiple businesses under a holding company. But then you just have to think about that liability, right? If that one business is sued and then they go after the holding company, then what happens, right? So with that being said, if you have, the best practice is to have one holding company per business. Do I choose responsible or duly authorized member, or am I the third party? So you choose responsible and duly authorized member. Is it best practice to create all three trusts first before adding any assets, anything to it, or does it matter? So, I mean, you creating all three trusts is for convenience, right? So you want to do it simultaneously because you're walking through the same process, right? Where you got to get it notarized, then you have to, execute a promissory note, open up a bank account, fund it, all that stuff. And so do you want to do it one by one or do you want to do it all together? So that's one. And then two, as far as the assets goes, whichever trust you are putting the asset into, you just need to make sure that that specific trust is legalized. So if you have one house, you don't necessarily need to have all three trusts created just to put that one house into one trust. So if you want to just focus on one trust, then you can do that. All right. Do I have any other questions? All right, Jen said thanks. You're welcome, you're welcome. All right, any other questions for this evening? You can either come off mute, you could put it in the chat. You guys have been asking really good questions. All right, Flo says she has a question. So she said, I'm wondering what we can do or should do to prep for tomorrow. That's a good question. So if you don't have a virtual address, go ahead and get a virtual address. That's one thing that you can do to prep for tomorrow, because we're going to do our other EIN application. So if you didn't get to actually execute your EIN application because you didn't have a trust address today, then just make sure that that's something that you get done tonight, so that tomorrow when we apply for the business trust EIN, you're able to actually do it. So that's one thing that you need. Tomorrow we're going to actually go through the EIN application for the business trust, and then we're going to do a board meeting, and then we're going to establish corporate credit, right, for our business trust. So everything that we're doing tomorrow is for the business trust, and then we'll also go through the promissory note for the initial consideration of the trust. Okay, so with that being said, when we're establishing corporate credit, we're actually going to build out our business credit profile tomorrow. And so they ask you for like a website, but it's optional. If you don't have it, then you can go back to it later. They also ask you for an email address. So if you guys don't have an email for your business trust, go ahead and create one tonight, so that you're able to use that tomorrow when we actually establish the credit profile for the business trust. Okay. So those are like the things that would be nice for you guys to fulfill this evening. I do have homework for you guys. So I know that there was a lot of individuals that got approved yesterday and today into the Facebook group. Amazing. So we have just completed all three of our trusts, right? Monday, we did the business trust. Tuesday, we did the private family trust, and tonight we did the ministry trust. So my job is to hold you guys accountable. So I want you to post in the Facebook group and let me know when you guys are going to get your trust notarized. Okay, are you going to do it this weekend? Are you going to do it next week? I want to know the time frame so that I can hold you accountable, because the thing with getting it notarized is that you're not only relying on yourself, you're also relying on the grantor. So when are you going to be able to either get together with the grantor or have the grantor notarize it, and then you notarize it separately, however that process works? But when do you plan on getting it legalized so that you can start operating the trust? So go ahead and post that in the Facebook group when you plan on getting your trust notarized. I have two more questions here. Did you already do the family trust? We did the family trust yesterday. So we set up the family trust yesterday, and tonight we did the ministry trust, and Monday we did the business trust. So Jen, were you here yesterday? I thought I saw you. Karen said, so is a virtual address better than a physical PO box? I wouldn't say better. The only difference is that with a virtual address, you'll get the mail forwarded to your primary residence. And with a physical PO box, you have to physically show up somewhere and get the mail. So that might be a little inconvenient if you think about it that way. If you don't mind, then that is okay. You can use a PO box, that's perfectly fine, and that still conceals your identity, which is good, okay? So either or is good, virtual address or PO box. Where do we access the course replays? So the replays are going to be sent by my assistant Aya. So she's going to go ahead and upload the recordings to YouTube and send you guys the link to the recordings, okay? And she will send that via email. If you have been receiving her emails, then that's great. If not, then check your spam folder because it's probably in spam, okay? Let's see. Yes. Did you create the EIN for the family trust? No, not yet. Okay, thank you for asking that that clarification. So we are going to do the family trust EIN on Friday. Okay, so today we did the EIN application for the ministry trust. Tomorrow we're going to do the EIN application for the business trust. And then on Friday, we'll do the EIN application for the private family trust. And the reason we do it that way is because, like we saw on the website, we can only apply for one EIN per day. So that's why we do it this way. Jen said, awesome. Okay, Jen, I'm super excited that you're excited. So be here or be square. So Flo says, I found a lot of places that will not allow a PO box. For example, Fidelity will not permit a PO box. Okay. So thank you for putting that in there, Flo. Even like the IRS, they say that they don't want PO boxes, but they still accept it. Like you're still able to submit your online application. So I don't know. I found that with virtual addresses, it's just more convenient to have than PO boxes. That's why I have a virtual address versus a PO box. And like I said, it was like the physical component to it too. But I'm not sure what companies accept PO boxes and what companies don't. So thank you for putting that in the chat, Flo, because that's something that a lot of the other members might want to take into consideration on why they would want to choose a virtual address over a PO box or vice versa. Nancy said, do you have any resources that talk about the benefits of being an ordained minister? Oh, that is so good. I'm actually going to get a resource from one of my partners, Dion. She has the information on like the benefits of being an ordained minister. So I'll see if I can get you access to that, Karen, or I think you're connected with Dion already. So you might be able to ask her. But I will see, I'll see about that. Any other questions? All right, guys. So I gave you, let me see, how does, she has, how does funding the ministry trust work in general? Is there a limit on how much? So funding the ministry trust is just like funding any other trust. So the way that that works is once you have opened up the bank account, then that's when you're going to do that initial consideration and you're going to put money into the trust, okay? And so that's just as simple as actually depositing cash, doing a wire transfer or anything, or just doing, you know, a physical deposit into the trust, okay? And the only thing that you want to document is that you're actually lending those funds to the ministry, right? And so you're going to do a promissory note, which I will show you tomorrow. You're going to do a promissory note for whatever amount you decide to fund the ministry trust with. So let's just say it's $1,000, right? That $1,000, where did it come from? It came from you. It came from your bank account. It came from your W-2 paycheck or your business. So what you want to do is you want to document that paper trail, and you want to document it as a loan so that the ministry can pay back that $1,000. So that's it's just that simple. And we're going to do a board meeting so that you can actually like define what the banking operations are going to look like. So we're going to do that tomorrow as well. And I think that's it. Flo says, if anyone is looking for the state chapters for the FBO, it's in the resources tab. Thank you, Flo. Flo's so amazing. So yes, she is correct. Okay. So when we were setting up the ministry trust, there's something called State Nonprofit Corporation Act. And so what you want to do is we do have a resource as a PDF where you have all the different states and their titles and chapters. It is in the resources tab in the course. So if you go to the online portal, go all the way down to the bottom, hit resource, and then you're able to download that so that you can plug that part into your ministry trust. I tried to post it, but there's no permission. Okay. So let me see if I could post it. 1 second. I'm gonna look for it right now, guys. Flo said, I've been blown away with the course. It is excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And like, I'm always adding new information. So I was like thinking about something today that I'm gonna add on there. Okay, so let me actually upload that for you guys before I let you go. State nonprofit. One second, guys. I know I'm looking for it on my computer, so I might look a little weird. Okay, there it is. So I just posted it in the chat, the PDF that you guys are going to need in order to find the titles and chapters for the ministry trust for the Constitution, okay? So go ahead and download that and you're able to plug that in. It is in the resources tab, like Flo said. So anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. It is 9:18. I do want to be respectful of your time. So I will see you guys tomorrow here on Zoom at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You will receive an email from Aya with all the resources that you're going to need for tomorrow. Like I said, tomorrow we're doing EIN applications. We're doing our trust corporate credit, establishing that. We're doing promissory notes, and we're doing board meetings. So we have a full night, a workshop ahead of us. So go ahead to the Facebook community and post your homework. We want to know when you guys are going to get your trust notarized. Okay, we want to keep you accountable. I'll see you here tomorrow on Zoom. Have a good night. Be blessed.